Hello YouTube, this is Matt of the Bluebell Model Railway channel here on YouTube. Today I have a new model for review, and this is the KMRC Model Railway Centre exclusive Adams O2. The variation we have here is number 24 Calbourne, which is the Isle of Wight version. There are two Isle of Wight versions, which is number 24 Calbourne, which you see here, and number 16 Ventnor, which is due for delivery in the next week or so and has just landed at Southampton. There are 7 variants, including the two O2s from the Isle of Wight. There are 3 push-pull versions, which is numbers 225, that's in SR Bullied Black, number 207, which is in SR Green, and a BR Early 30182. They're all push-pulls, those ones, and the other 2 are mainland versions, which are BR Early 30193 and BR Lake Crest 30225. Let's take you through a bit of history about this model. So it was announced in 2010 after laser scanning the sole remaining O2 tank engine here on the Isle of Wight, which is Calbourne. It was announced in 2010, as mentioned, in September, and it has taken a long time to get to market and to be released, but this is due to a manufacturer swap halfway through the project. So it's now swapped from Dapol, and it's swapped to Dave Jones Models, or DJM for short. The first ones to be okayed were the Isle of Wight ones, but had to wait in line for the other 7 variants to be finished. This model is on sale by KMRC Model Railway Centre and also by the Isle of Wight Steam Railway at Haven Street here on the Isle of Wight. Take you through a bit of a history of the actual locomotive. It was designed by William Adams, built in 1891 at the LSWR 9 Elms Works. This one was transferred to the island on the 26th of April 1925. They lasted up until 1967, still in service. 2 of them were retained, which was number 24 Calbourne and number 31 Chale, which was slightly different due to it having a Drummond boiler. They were basically retained for electrification service trains, so we're laying the rails down and electric rails, etc. It became the flagship of the Wight Preservation Society or Locomotive Society in 1967. This model arrived a couple of weeks ago, back in November, and it's taken me a while to get round to reviewing it, but hopefully today we can have a good look at it and look at the detail, etc. Before going into that, we'll just take you through what's in the box and what you have. You have a nice sturdy box, which you can see in the background, of K2101, which is the model number for this one. And in the box you get some nice high density foam, which has a ribbon around it to keep the top of the foam on. In the box you get a number of detail parts. Just bring these ones in front. You can see it has some etched nameplates for this one, as it has some nameplates printed on the side of the tanks, and also some etched fire irons. A nice touch, and a nice touch by KMRC to put them in as well. Also, in addition to these, we have some plastic detailing parts. So we have some root discs here, and also got a Isle of Wight service number, number 1, because we ran services, different services, number 1, 2, etc. And an RCTS board. There's also a couple of other pipes for the front of the model here, like air, pump, also a plastic 3-link chain which clips into the front of the buffer beam as well, and also a steam heater pipe for the coaches. Also you can see in here various plastic boxes, etc., which I believe is for the DCC sound if you wish to fit it in these models, as it was designed in mind when it was in the design process. Also in the box are a number of leaflets and paperwork on the Adams O2s, how to run it in, oiling, body removal, accessories, digital command control, how to fit the chip, which is in the front end, and also a little bit of history about the O2s as well. Also, you get a massive amount of spares, or a spare list. You can see here, this is just for one model, not this one, but K2104, K2105. You also get the parts list. You'll find the Isle of Wight ones on the reverse side. You can see here K2101. So this is all the spares that you can have for this model, and various other ones. Anyway, let's get onto the model now and take you for a show around the model and all the details on it. So let's have a closer look at the model. So the chassis is a nice weight. We have some brake rigging on the outside here up to the main cylinder here. This is all plastic, injection molded. Some say it's a little bit bulky, but it doesn't really detract from the model in my view. I guess for those who do not like it or feel it's too bulky, it can be quite easily changed with some etched products which you can use to refine that area. The wheels are all metal, I believe, and are painted black. It is an all-wheel pickup, so all the wheels on this locomotive pick up power. It has an etched connection rod here on the outside. It is not chrome, but it's more of an oily silver, I would sort of say, similar to a product you can get from Rail Match. I think it's Rail Match paints. The crank pins are black for some odd reason, and have been for quite a while through the pre-production samples. If you don't like that, then just paint it with an oily silver paint. As I just mentioned, I think Rail Match does a paint like this. I think I brought some recently. All the main driving wheels are geared, so they're all connected, so they don't over rotate as, say, a Hornby M7 would do if it was just driven off one axle. If I roll it over here, you can see two bulges on the underside which show that they have gears in. The other thing you might want to know is with the all-wheel pickup, it's a bit of an odd way of doing it, but they have a sort of split axle design where the two metal ends of the axle, I believe, are not insulated from each other, from the wheel to the axle. And the power is picked up off brass bearings. You can see this on the bogie a bit more clearly. There are brass bearings on the end of the plastic bogie, and the wheels connect into the middle into a plastic connector. There's been a little bit of negativity on that on one review in a magazine, and in fact the back-to-backs were 15mm. Mine were just under 15mm. Sometimes if they're not actually pushed home enough into the plastic housing, then that can cause a few derailments. So always check the back-to-backs on the models. I do with Hornby and Bachmann just to make sure. These need a little bit of tweaking, but generally not too far out. The magic number for back-to-backs is about 14.5mm. I believe they can go up to about 14.6 without causing too many problems. But one review did say it had problems, and that was down to the back-to-back issue. But generally, it's a good weight. It's 154 grams overall, the weight of the model. It has a coreless motor, which I think is quite new to the model railway scene. So I think the only other model that had it was a BT Weld tank after it was slightly retooled and bought out later on. I think it was beginning of this year, I think, of a new batch from which was produced by Dave Jones Models. or DJM for short. The rear bogie is sprung, as you can see. It's only got a slight bit of spring to it, but it's not too bad. It feels quite well balanced. There's a main weight in the body from about here to here, so quite a big block of metal in the middle. And these models can pull up to 6 coaches, I've seen, so that's not too bad at all. For something this size, that's pretty respectable. Because these are only small locos. They're a lot smaller than M7s, so it's pretty respectable, pulling 6 coaches for something that doesn't weigh a lot. I think I said it weighs 154 grams, which is not bad at all. It's about half the weight of a wheels kit of an O2, which I have quite a couple of. Okay, let's start looking at some of the detail on this model on the body. On the front end, you can see the 2 buffers there, which are unsprung, so just moulded plastic buffers. Some nice rivet detail around the buffer housing. Along the buffer beam itself, you see a nicely printed number 24. A nice plastic hook in the centre. There's also a detail which you can add on from the accessory pack, which hooks over this and also attaches into the small hole just to the right of it, which is a small sort of hanger which you can, which most locos have these days. If you look at it in detail on the pictures, etc. You also see a pipe which is for, I believe it's the Westinghouse air brake system, which goes to the coaches. There's also a steam heating pipe which is in the accessory pack, which can be also stuck to the front or just behind the buffer beam for extra detail. You can see the lamp irons on the front here, all 3 of them, one in the middle which is attached to the buffer beam itself, which is correct as per the prototype. There is also one at the top of the smoke box as well. Moving on to the smoke box, and some of you will know with the Kerno BT well tanks, the main door is removable and is held on by 2 magnets, which you can see there, and which allows access to the DCC socket or plug, and that simply goes back on very easily. Around the front of the smoke box you can see the handrails, which stop short just behind the Westinghouse pump, which is correct as per the prototype, as the main steam feed pipe for the Westinghouse pump comes in behind, and then this pipe here at the front of the pump attaches via a junction and then connects to the front of the Westinghouse pump. The chimney is nicely moulded and nicely modelled. And on the Westinghouse pump itself, if I zoom in slightly so you can see a little bit clearer, the amount of detail and work and just the general detail level is quite astounding, really. I think we've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5, 6 pipes coming out of it. 2 at the front, 1 going round to the handrail on the other side, another 1 going behind that, going to the reservoir tank on top of the water tanks, and a couple more behind it which go into the smoke box. Now this pump obviously compresses air for the braking system on the rolling stock, which is an Isle of Wight thing. That's been really nicely modelled. You can even see the small dome nut on top of there painted gold as well, which is quite impressive. Probably one of the most detailed Westinghouse pumps I've ever seen in 00 scale. You can see on the splasher, this has been nicely detailed and nicely printed BR lining, and with the brass painted in gold just running over the top of it there. On the running plate you can see rivets as well, all nicely added, as well as the clack valve going up towards the boiler. The boiler bands are nicely painted up, as well as the small gold part behind the smoke box itself. Moving along to the side tanks, I saw a comment, or read a comment on the internet or forum, that the line down the bottom here is a mould line. That is incorrect. This is a BR repair job, which is on the prototype on number 24 Calbourne, as they laser scan this locomotive, so it's pretty correct. It's actually a weld repair, so an extra piece of steel along the base of the water tanks to strengthen them due to corrosion or wear. Most or some O2s had them, some didn't, or like number 31 Chale, it had one on one side and not on the other, or others just had small repairs or none at all, like number 16 Ventnor, which will be here in a week or two. On the tank, nicely applied lining, nicely printed nameplate. Of course there are etched nameplates in the packaging, in the detailing packaging, as well as nicely printed BR early emblem. You can also see the air tank reservoir on the top of the tank, as well as the feller cap for the tank as well. You can also see the safety valves, the Adams safety valves, as well as the lever which comes off of it towards the cab. Moving on to the cab now, we'll just focus in just slightly on that one. You can see more pipe work around the front of the cab, including the very small pipe running up from the cab behind the reservoir there, reservoir tank. Nice to see the nicely modelled larger hooter or whistle. These were fitted after the 30s after resident complaints due to the other ones being a bit shrilly. So the ex-LSWR whistles were replaced with more mellower hooters to cut down on complaints. Not sure where they came from, but I believe they came from a steamboat or some sort of thing. But most of the Isle of Wight O2s had them. And I think even Metropolitan number 1 has one on it as well. The windows are glazed, as you can see, and having a nice brass outline to them as well, painted in gold. You can see the ventilation holes on the front of the cab, which some have said are slightly overscale, but that is the limitation of the tooling, or the process of the tooling. Moving to the cab roof, you can see the sliding vent, which is another Isle of Wight item. So none of the mainland ones I don't think had these. So this is purely an Isle of Wight thing. Around the cab you can see the burnished steel opening. It has burnished steel around the outside, as well as the Westinghouse pump. They were originally painted gold on the prototype, but they do go gold after the oil has been dripping down them for a little bit, so it gives that impression they are gold. On the cab it was painted gold on the prototype, but due to the reflection of the light in the cab, that's why it looked gold on the images, etc. But it is actually burnished steel. The handrails are picked out in silver as well as the cab opening. We'll try and give you a little bit of a better view inside the cab. Okay, using an extra additional light to try and get a little bit of light inside the cab, you can see the small small storage unit on the back of the cab. You can also even see the small, I'm not sure what it is, a small tank or something up in the right hand corner, and a small pipe running out of it towards the front, which is quite impressive really. It's just about struggling to focus on that, but it's just about doing it. You can see the handbrake on the left and the reverser in the background. Inside the cab you can see the water gauges, various handles and pipe work in there, as well as the regulator handle now going up towards the right in the centre. See pipe work on the back, and also the handles, and also the gauges on the front of the cab as well. Nicely detailed in now, I have to say, very nicely detailed. Okay, back outside the model now, and you can see some more pipe work running from the running plate underneath to behind the step. Moving back towards the rear of the locomotive, you can see the extended bunker, which was another A.B. MacLeod item, as well as the cab doors. That was an Isle of Wight thing as well, which he added on the O2's in the 30s, I think. Most mainland ones didn't have cab doors, they had chains across the doors, or whatever they had, or just left open. On the bunker, they were extended quite early on into our Isle of Wight lives. This is the main difference between the mainland versions and the Isle of Wight versions. In fact, if you compare it to a Will's Finecast model, which I have modelled in 1930s condition as it arrived on the island, you can see the size difference, which I think probably adds another ton and a bit of coal and increases its range and travelling distance. But you can see the differences between them there. On the bunker, the coal load is removable, which allows you to gain access to 2 screws at the base here. When undone or unscrewed, you can remove the cab roof, allowing you better access to the cab to add a loco crew to the cab, which improves the realism. And also in the bunker is enough room to install a sugar cube speaker. I believe that was designed into the model after some questions about how people can add DCC sound to them. So this has been included in the model. We have a nicely printed number on the side of the bunker. Moving round to the rear, you can see nicely attached lamp irons or root disc holders, or whatever you want to call them, and also a nicely printed plate of W24 on the rear. On the prototype, it's actually painted out along the top of Southern Railway. Apparently back in the day they actually tried to remove the Southern Railway writing around the top of the actual disc or the plate, just leaving number 24. On the rear you can see a air brake pipe again, as well as 2 unsprung buffers. You can also see some guards across the windows as well on the rear. On the bogie you see the guard irons on the rear, as well as the NEM socket for the normal NEM coupling. On the other side you see more pipework under the running plate, which is nicely painted up into copper, or copper colour. And again the repair plate on the right hand side as well. Overall, a very nice model. How does it perform? As I've mentioned, it pulls about 5 to 6 coaches, which is not bad for an 044T. This could be improved if you add additional weight to the smoke box or the front end of the model. They generally retail for £124.99. That is all 7 variants. They are available from Kernow Model Rail Centre, or this one in particular is available from the Haven Street Steam Railway on the Isle of Wight, or the Haven Street shop. What I'll do now is attach on a little bit more footage of this loco running in on a rolling road, which is being powered by a Gauge Master controller. I hope you enjoyed this small review, and I hope this has helped you decide whether you would like one of these models or not. And if you do, or you have more questions, please post them in the comments box below, where I will get back to you and reply to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll have a few more reviews and videos in the future. Enjoy modelling, and I hope you all have a great Christmas and New Year. Thanks for watching. Certainly nice and steady and consistent speed, no jumping or jerking. Also quite silent as well. There's a slight rumble due to the cabinet it is on at the moment. There is a hollow section underneath it, so that certainly amplifies the sound a little bit. Take it up a little bit more. Around about 35 on the controller at the moment.